The doorbell rang at exactly 2:14 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon. I'd been expecting it, though Ashley Carter, the woman who stood on my doorstep clutching a manila envelope, had no idea that her dramatic revelation was about to backfire spectacularly. "Are you Victoria Mitchell?" she demanded, her voice shaking with barely controlled rage. I smiled warmly, stepping aside. "I am. Would you like to come in? I just made coffee." She hesitated, clearly thrown off by my calm demeanor. This wasn't the reaction she'd expected when coming to confront her husband's other wife. "My name is Victoria Mitchell, or at least, that's what James Mitchell had called me for the past 8 years. I'm 34, run a successful consulting firm, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had a perfect marriage to a wealthy investment banker. Then I found the receipt. Please sit." I gestured to our immaculate living room, a showcase of James's success with its designer furniture and original artwork. Ashley perched awkwardly on the edge of the white leather sofa, still clutching her envelope. "I don't understand," she said, watching me pour coffee into delicate china cups. "You're not surprised? About you being James's wife? The one he married in 2008 in Cape Cod." I handed her a cup. "No, I'm not surprised at all." The color drained from her face. "How did you know about Cape Cod?" I sat down across from her, smoothing my skirt. "The same way I know about your daughter Emma's private school tuition, the house in Connecticut, and the fact that James has been lying to both of us for nearly a decade." She set down her untouched coffee with trembling hands. "I don't understand. If you knew, why didn't I confront him? Leave him? Report him?" I smiled. "Because that would have been too easy, and James Mitchell deserves anything but easy." I walked to my home office, returning with my own manila envelope. 6 months ago, I found a receipt in James's jacket. Nothing suspicious, just a dinner at Le Bernardin. But the date caught my eye. It was our anniversary, and James had told me he was in London on business. Ashley's eyes widened as I continued, so I did some digging. Hired a private investigator. And what I found, I laughed softly. Well, let's just say James isn't as clever as he thinks he is. "Why are you telling me this?" Ashley asked, her initial anger giving way to confusion. "Because," I said, opening my envelope, "you're not here by accident, Ashley. That anonymous tip you received about James' other wife? The documents that led you to my address? That was me." She gasped. "You. I needed you to find out the truth, but more importantly, I needed you to find out today. Right now. Because in about 30 minutes, James is going to walk through that door, fresh from his business trip to Chicago." I made air quotes with my fingers, though we both know he was actually at Emma's soccer tournament in Connecticut. Ashley's hands flew to her mouth. "He said he had meetings in Boston." "He always was good at keeping his stories straight," I said. "Well, mostly straight. That's how I caught him, you know. One tiny slip-up with a dinner receipt, and his whole carefully constructed house of cards started to fall." I pulled out my phone, showing her a banking app. "Do you know what else I found while investigating our husband? Offshore accounts, shell companies, a whole network of hidden assets that I'm betting even you didn't know about." She shook her head slowly. "James Mitchell, the brilliant investment banker, has been doing more than just managing other people's money. He's been stealing it. Small amounts, cleverly hidden, spread across hundreds of accounts. The kind of theft that's hard to trace unless you know exactly where to look." "How do you know all this?" Ashley whispered. I smiled. "Because before I married James, I worked in forensic accounting, a detail he apparently never bothered to learn about his second wife. Just like he probably doesn't know what you did before becoming a full-time mother." "I was a compliance officer at Morgan Stanley," she said quietly. "Exactly. He married smart women, Ashley. That was his first mistake." The sound of a car pulling into the driveway made us both turn toward the window. "Right on schedule," I said, standing up. "Are you ready to help me take down our husband?" Ashley stood too, her face hardening with resolve. "What do you need me to do?" I handed her a document from my envelope. "First, we're going to let him walk in and try to explain why there are 2 Mrs. Mitchells in his living room. Then, while he's desperately trying to talk his way out of that situation, you're going to show him this." She looked at the paper, her eyes widening. "Is this proof of his financial crimes?" "Yes, but it's only the beginning." I checked my watch. "He'll be coming through that door in about 30 seconds. Remember, Let him talk. The more he lies, the deeper he'll dig himself. We heard keys in the lock, and I felt a surge of anticipation. 6 months of planning, of careful documentation and strategic moves had led to this moment. Victoria? James's voice called out. I'm home early. I managed to wrap up those meetings in Chicago. He walked into the living room, his designer briefcase in one hand, a bouquet of apology flowers in the other, his standard gift when he'd been away too long. He froze mid-step when he saw us both standing there. The flowers hit the floor with a soft thud. Hello, darling, I said sweetly. Look who stopped by for coffee. Your wife. James Mitchell had always been good at talking his way out of tight spots. It was what made him such a successful investment banker, that and his complete lack of moral compass, as we discovered. But standing in his perfectly decorated living room, faced with both his wives, even his silver tongue seemed to fail him. I can explain, he stammered, his usual confidence cracking. Can you? Ashley and I spoke in perfect unison, causing him to flinch. It's not what you think, he tried again, his eyes darting between us, probably trying to calculate which one of us was the bigger threat. I smiled, enjoying his discomfort. Really? Because I think this is exactly what it looks like. You married Ashley in 2008 in Cape Cod. Beautiful ceremony, by the way, I saw the photos. Then you married me in 2015 in Aspen, telling each of us that your frequent business trips were just part of being a successful banker. The color drained from his face. How long have you? No. I finished for him. Long enough to find everything, James. Every account, every transfer, every lie. He straightened his tie, a nervous habit I'd noticed over the years. Whatever you think you found, you don't understand the complexities of international finance. Oh, but we do, Ashley cut in, her voice steady. Victoria was kind enough to share all the documentation with me. The shell companies in the Caymans, the missing client funds, the fake investment accounts. You've been stealing for years, I added, pulling out my phone. Small amounts cleverly hidden. But you got sloppy, James, just like you got sloppy with that dinner receipt. His face hardened. You can't prove anything. I pressed play on my phone. His voice filled the room. Just move the Johnson Fund through the usual channels. By the time anyone notices, it'll be spread across so many accounts they'll never trace it. That's from 3 weeks ago, I said calmly. Your call with Marcus about the pension fund theft. I have hundreds more recordings, James. Every meeting, every call, every confession. He lunged for my phone, but I was ready for that. Ashley stepped between us, her own phone raised. I wouldn't, she said coldly. Everything's already been backed up and sent to secure servers. If anything happens to either of us, it all goes straight to the FBI. James collapsed onto the sofa, his perfectly tailored suit suddenly looking rumpled and wrong. What do you want? Want? I laughed. We want everything, James. Every penny you've stolen, every asset you've hidden. You're going to sign everything over to a victim restitution fund. You can't be serious, he scoffed. You'll get nothing. You'll both be disgraced when this comes out. Will we? Ashley pulled out another document, because according to these records, we're both innocent victims of your fraud. In fact, we're the ones who uncovered it and reported it. You already reported. His voice trailed off as realization hit him. Not yet, I said softly. You have 1 hour to sign these papers, transferring everything to the restitution fund. If you do, you might only serve 5 years. If you don't, I shrugged. Well, the FBI is very interested in investment fraud these days. His face contorted with rage. You manipulative buy. Careful, Ashley cut him off. Remember those recordings. Everything you say or do right now is being documented. As if to prove her point, a small red light blinked from the bookshelf. One of many cameras I'd installed months ago. James's shoulders slumped. You planned this. All of it. From the moment I found that receipt, I confirmed. The anonymous tip to Ashley, the evidence gathering, the recordings, all of it leading to this moment. You should have done your homework, James, before marrying a forensic accountant and a compliance officer. He looked up, desperation replacing anger. We can work something out. I have more money hidden away. We could split it, the 3 of us. Still trying to negotiate? I shook my head. It's over, James. The only choice you have left is whether you want to do this the easy way or the hard way. James chose the hard way. I watched from my office window 3 days later as FBI agents let him out in handcuffs. He'd spent those 3 days trying to move money, delete records, and call in favors, all of which failed because Ashley and I had already frozen every account, backed up every record, and warned every contact. Mrs. Mitchell. An FBI agent appeared at my door. "We've finished collecting evidence from a home office. We'll need you to come down to give a formal statement tomorrow." I nodded, suppressing a smile at the Mrs. Mitchell, soon to be former, along with Ashley. We both filed for annulment, citing fraud and bigamy. Our lawyers assured us it would be straightforward, especially given James' other crimes. My phone buzzed. Ashley. "It's done," her text read. "Just watch them raid the Connecticut house." Emma's okay, confused, but okay. I'd grown to respect Ashley over the past few days. She handled the destruction of her 15-year marriage with remarkable strength, focusing on protecting her daughter and helping bring James to justice. The final tally of James's theft was staggering. $67 million, stolen from various clients over a decade. The victims' restitution fund we'd set up would restore most of their losses, thanks to our careful tracking of his hidden assets. As for his legitimate assets, the houses, cars, art collections, they'd be sold to compensate his victims too. Ashley and I had made sure our names were clear legally, but we wanted no part of wealth built on stolen money. "Victoria?" Ashley stood in my doorway, Emma beside her. "Can we come in?" I gestured them inside. Emma, at 13, looked so much like her mother, the same determined set to her jaw, the same sharp intelligence in her eyes. "I want to thank you," Ashley said, sitting down. "Not just for uncovering everything, but for how you handled it, for thinking of Emma in all this." I smiled at the girl. "Your mom's the real hero here. She could have just taken the evidence and turned James in, but she worked with me to make sure we could recover the money for his victims." Emma spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. "Did you ever love him? Either of you?" Ashley and I exchanged glances. It was a question we'd both been avoiding. "I loved who I thought he was," I said finally. "The successful, charming man who seemed to care about doing good in the world. But that man never existed." "I loved him for 15 years, Ashley added. "But looking back, there were always signs. The inconsistencies, the long absences, the way he compartmentalized his life. I just didn't want to see them." Emma nodded, processing this. "What happens now?" "Now," I said, pulling out a folder, "we move forward. Your mom mentioned you're interested in finance." The girl's eyes lit up. "Yeah. I want to help people protect their money, make sure nobody else can do what Dad did." "Well," I handed her some brochures. "I've started a foundation with part of my consulting firm's profits. We're going to fund scholarships for students interested in financial crimes prevention and victim advocacy. You'd be a perfect candidate in a few years." Ashley squeezed her daughter's shoulder. "See, something good can come from this." As they left, I turned back to my window. The FBI vehicles were gone, along with James. The life I thought I had, perfect marriage, wealthy husband, glamorous lifestyle, had vanished too. But in its place was something real: integrity, justice, and an unexpected friendship with the woman who should have been my rival. My phone buzzed one last time, a news alert. James' arrest was already making headlines. Prominent banker charged in massive fraud scheme. Below was a quote from his lawyer. "Mr. Mitchell maintains his innocence and claims he was set up by his wives." I laughed out loud. Even now, he couldn't take responsibility. But it didn't matter anymore. The evidence spoke for itself, and James Mitchell would spend the next 20 years in federal prison learning a hard lesson about underestimating women. That evening, Ashley, Emma, and I had dinner together. Not at some expensive restaurant, but at my small apartment downtown. My real home, not the showcase house James had bought with stolen money. To new beginnings, Ashley raised her glass of wine. "To justice," I added. "To family," Emma said quietly, "even if it's not the kind we expected." We clinked glasses, 3 women brought together by one man's betrayal, now united in something stronger than marriage certificates or legal documents: truth, trust, and the satisfaction of knowing we turned his lies into something good. Later, as I got ready for bed, I found one last reminder of James, a photo from our wedding. We looked so happy, so in love. But now I could see what I'd missed then: the calculation in his eyes, the practiced nature of his smile. I dropped the photo in the shredder, listening to the satisfying whir as it disappeared. Some people might call what we did revenge. I prefer to think of it as justice, not just for us, but for every person James had stolen from, lied to, betrayed. The next morning, I walked into my consulting firm with my head high. On my desk was a stack of letters, thank you notes from James's victims who were already receiving restitution payments. Each one reminded me that sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about rebuilding what they broke stronger than before. And as for James, last I heard, he was adjusting to life in federal prison, probably still trying to charm his way out of consequences. But this time there was no escape, no clever argument, no wife to manipulate. Just 20 years to think about the women he underestimated and the justice they served.